Okay, welcome everybody to the Ortelius Working Group for Architecture, June 10th. Let me put the doc if you just jumped in the chat. One of those weird things again with Zoom. So please go ahead and sign in. And the thing I want to cover today is, and I don't know if Jesse's on. Does not look like he's on yet. Last week we covered Swagger and how we can bring in Swagger into the UI. And so I want to kind of continue that discussion because we have a couple other items that are kind of popping up around the service catalog that I just want to make sure that we are going to handle them correctly. So let me go to a component and share my screen. So here's our list of components. And if we go into one of our components, what we're going to see is we have our detail here. Some of the other boxes is we have our dependency map. We go scroll down. We have where we've deployed to this component, our key value pairs as part of that process, a graphical view of where this deployment has, this component has been deployed to, and then a list of consuming applications, our audit trail, our access control. And in this case, because I'm running deploy hub, I have change requests associated with it. Change requests just don't exist in Ortelius. So the question is, we're going to be adding in items like the Swagger endpoint documentation. So we'll have that. Some of the other things that came up since our last meeting was somebody wanted us to add in the README file from the GitHub repo, the license from the repo, bring that and associate all that into the component. Also on our service catalog list, we have the CVEs that the container for the component is using or is exposed to. So let's say we have a Python Flask container. That Python Flask image may have some CVEs. So we'll have a list of CVEs as well as a list of the licenses for those Python modules, for example. So we're getting a lot more data. And the question is, how should we handle it? Should we start doing tabs? Somebody last time suggested that we make these boxes collapsible rows as part of the process, or should we keep it a long, single page with like bookmarks that will jump you to a certain if I want to go see the endpoints, I'd have something up here that I could jump in and scroll me automatically to the endpoint section. Just to give you an idea what the tabs look like. If we go into one of these, here's one that has at the application level, we do use the tabs. So we have the general, then we have the package components, which brings us to a whole new screen at that level. So I just kind of want to open it up for discussion, get some ideas, what people think, what would be the best way to pull this together. Because I'm actually at the point of pulling in the microservices and hooking the front end to the back end now. Any thoughts? Oh, you guys are quiet today. Neil, what do you think? What have you ever experienced when you got a website with a lot of data on it?
I have no idea right now.
No idea. Okay, we'll let you think about it. Devendran,
Uh,
good.
Yeah, like I was one was for that collapse and collapsing that window. And first we need to group like which we can as a tab. So I think we can't have everything as a tab. Then it will also be like runtime. We can't load all the tabs into the data into the tabs. So we have to look into that as well.
Yeah, once we figure out the layout, I can figure out how we can load the stuff efficiently from the back end. Because one of the things we used to have in an old version of Ortelius was a bunch of tabs. And then we went and got rid of the tabs and brought it all so it's on a single, kind of like a single pane of glass that we're looking at. So I'm hesitant of the tab idea. I think some big tabs, like you said, maybe group some things together that fit well together, and we make that a tab, and then other things we can group together as part of another tab. What do people think about the collapsing of rows? You know, where we could say, you know, take a row in, let's say.
So see, I was thinking like we can have like pictorial representation of these into one tab, and like we have like a data's text. These like endpoints, and then general information in one tab, and the maps and component connections. These pictorial representations in another tab.
Okay. Okay. So we put like all the visualizations on one tab. So we'd put like the dependency graph here and the endpoint, like on a visualization tab. Okay.
Can I ask a question, Steve?
Yeah.
So I understand you're worried about data exploding, but like, is it the key value pairs and the details that you're worried about exploding, or is it just all of these things becoming more detailed? Is there some specific aspect of this that you're worried about becoming less manageable?
It is because we are adding, so for example, the Swagger UI endpoints, that would take up a pretty good size box. Because if you ever look at the Swagger interface, it has all your endpoints listed, and then you could like try them and things like that, and gives the documentation. That would go in one of these boxes, and we would go ahead and you know, scroll the box, you know, to allow the navigation within like the Swagger documentation. And same thing like with the README, you know, or the README from the Git repo. We'd bring that in, and we'd probably show maybe a third of it, you know, maybe a couple inches, and let people scroll on that point. The other thing I just thought of is maybe we need to do something like a small snippet, you know, kind of show a part of it where it's scrollable. Then we can jump out into a bigger, another tab on the browser or something. But that's where we're going, Christopher, is we're getting more data, different data sets. I just talked to somebody, Tracy, I just talked to somebody a couple days ago. Other things that they would like to see is like the SLI and the SLO. Who's the primary top 3 developers for the service? That type of pager, the playbooks, pager duty, incident management, those type of things is what we're going to be adding on here.
Cool. So, you know, like from a paneled UX experience sort of thing. You know, one of the common things I've seen is that you can collapse the boxes, you know, so we could like minimize the dependency map and it wouldn't be taking up so much space.
Right.
And the other thing is that, like, I really feel like given the expanding number of boxes, you need some like intra-page navigation, like a table of contents, you know, maybe instead of using the tabs as distinct sets of information, you could have the tabs be, you know, a thing that takes you to that part of the page instead of taking you to a different page. But, you know, if somebody's looking for the README, you know, how are they going to know that it's at the bottom of this page?
Exactly. So that's why I was thinking up here, like you said, instead of doing the tabs going across, that we would have like the README, like you said, would be an intra-page navigation to the README, to the CVEs, those type of things. I like that idea. I think the more we keep on a single page, I feel the better. It seems to be easier for people to follow or find. People are getting used to scrolling a lot, you know, especially on your phone. So, and jumping to the different sections could be pretty cool.
Yeah,
Nice.
and
Go ahead.
yeah, actually, I try to make some changes, but I'm unable to like build that in my local. If I get some help on that, I think I can have some kind of a prototype on what it will look like.
Okay. Yeah, I can help you on that. This front end code is pretty ugly. It's yeah, there's no framework to it, so it's just pure jQuery and JavaScript. So it's not the prettiest piece of code. So that aside, I'll help you get started on that.
Yeah. So if you help me on running it on local, then that would be like a good step for me, because I have made some changes on this. So like collapsing and uncollapsing, those things, many changes I already done in the code, but I couldn't able to test it on the local.
Okay, we'll get you set up there. We'll schedule a time to get your Eclipse environment all up and running so you can run locally the front end. So part of it was what we're running into is the front end is a monolith based on top of a Java application. And so the new stuff that we've been doing, like around all the new stuff we're adding for the service catalog is all new microservices that people have been working on. So that's going to be easier, and we're breaking that away from the monolith side of things. That's all in the Java world. Our main, what I would call our middle tier, for lack of a better word, where all of our database transactions exist. It's a Java class, so that's like 35,000 lines long. So it's not the best layout, but that's what we have to work with. Down the road, I'd love to move the UI into a standard framework like a React or a Vue or something like that. So we have some easier to manipulate down the road, but not today. Okay, so we got a couple ideas there. Now, this is going to be much harder to implement, but it may be worthwhile taking a look at would be to, well, somebody, a person from Belgium suggested, he said he would like to be able to like click these 3 services and then say open, and would open up 3 separate tabs, so you can then cut and paste data from the 3 different components. And so that was one thing that may allow us to, if we do something like that, we could then break out this screen into a whole new framework as part of that level. So that's something that we can consider as well. We would lose this part over here, but we'd have more real estate for just editing that component as part of that level. So that was an interesting idea that he came up with. The other question I have is, do we need to allow people to pick and choose which boxes that they want to see, kind of like a portal type of thing, where you get to go and configure what you want, which boxes you want, where you want them located, that type of thing? Or should we just let it, kind of work with what we have? Does that make sense what I'm talking about? Those portal things?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's a high priority, but having a checklist so that you can disable boxes that you don't care about seems like
Okay.
it would be a nice thing. Whether you want to let people reorder them or not, it's a little bit harder, but it might be nice.
Yeah, I think what if we I wonder if we meet halfway. So if somebody wants to like minimize, like we're talking about, minimize the dependency map box, that we would just persist that. So the next time they came in, that box would be minimized as part of their profile.
Yeah, I mean, it is, that's probably nicer for the beginning user, but like for a more advanced user, I would want to have something that locked it in. It's like I know that I never want to see the CVEs because I'm just burned out on security. So even if I accidentally look at it one day, I don't want it to pop up on the next thing. But having it at least be what the last thing was, I think that's a nice place to start, and certainly better than where we're at today.
Right. Okay. We'll put that on. We'll see what we can do on that front, because we do one of the things that we do is we persist the filters to your user ID. So if I want to, next time I come back, this filter is persisted at the table level. So we do some of that persistence of like search criteria at the on a per user basis. So we have that table there, so it may be worthwhile to expand that as part of that process.
Wondering, like for the details, like you've got this really long box that has information, and like somebody might only care about 50% of the details. So like, maybe having that stuff only show up if it's populated or if it's a non-default value, there's different ways, but like maybe making that searchable in the same way that other thing is.
Okay. Yeah, on the new front end that I've been working on, I cut it off at like this data here is in the left-hand side box, and I moved the dependency map down to the bottom, and then I've started taking this other data and moving it over here. So I've already started the split on the UI work I've been doing. So it definitely works better to have it in not such a long list as part of that process. It makes it definitely easier to read.
That sounds good.
Okay. I think that was the main stuff. What I'd like everybody to do is I want to make sure that we're not missing anything as far as what we need from a service catalog perspective. So I will put out on our Discord channel the list of everything that we are gathering. And if we could, everybody could just review it. I'll put it on the dev channel. Just review it and see if we need to add anything. Like I said, SLI and SLO came up. Also, there's been some things popping up around. Tracy, what is it called? Not it's like the not availability of a service, but like the health of a service. Remember somebody was asking us about like tracking to make sure that a service is healthy or not, and they wanted to see that.
I vaguely do. I think there was a discussion about us being able to determine the risk value, which I keep talking about.
Yeah.
But I don't remember that in particular. I think that the discussion was around integrating with APM tools and bringing that information back in.
Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah.
I think that probably is another effort, because I think at this point, adding that information might require us determining which APM tool we're going to integrate with, or we have to do them all at once, or at least the main ones.
Yeah.
So I would leave that off the table for now, but I would suggest that everybody take a look at two websites. Backstage. One's called Backstage, and this is they consider this a portal for developing developer platforms, because you can go in and say, I want to develop this kind of a solution, and I click on this option and it builds my CI/CD pipeline in the back. But it does have a nice registry of nice catalog. And this is a CNCF project that's gaining some traction. So I would say it's the catalog, the registry part of it, we should be looking at closely, and how they do things there. And the other one is a company called Ops Level. Now, Ops Level is it's a commercial product, and they are super focused around nothing but doing support at the production level clusters. But I think that it would do us all good to know what's in these products and make sure that our catalog, our service catalog, is going to compete well with these two products.
Yeah. So here they kind of did the tab thing with theirs.
So on the observability front, APM is really key from like an integrating information across your component standpoint, and it helps isolate where stuff is going on. But like on a component by component level, you would tend to have either a Nagio style check, which is like either it's up or it's down basically, or you would have metrics, so you'd have time series, history, data, graphs to show the health of something. And, Grafana is pretty best of breed in this graph presentation sort of stuff. And so I'm guessing we could probably take a Grafana component and put it in a box and not have to build all of that sort of infrastructure.
Yeah, there was somebody else pointed out, let's say we wanted to, like you said, if you wanted to view the Grafana, that we could possibly do an iframe of the Grafana in as a box in here.
And the only real problem I see with that is that you might have 50 graphs associated with something. So you might like want a drop down box or something to let people choose which graph they're looking at now. But that seems like relatively low hanging fruit instead of trying to integrate APM with Ortelius.
Right. Well, that was the other thing when we do these integrations, because a lot of the the starting point will be gathering basically where's the URL, what's the URL for PagerDuty, for example, and then or what's the URL for the CVE, and from there when we go to display that, we either just jump them to another tab to let them view that data, or we do an iframe and bring that in as another box as part of that process. So it's something to think about at the UI level. I mean, it could get messy when you have a bunch of iframes out here and they try to make iframes communicate with each other. It just doesn't go well. iframe's a nice idea, hard to implement. Yeah, I like that. The other one that Karam was looking at was open telemetry to bring up the graphing part of the transactions as well. But that would be more at the application level than at the component level, but that's something that another integration point that we'd have. So if I think, like you said, Christopher, if we hit off Grafana and started there, I think it would be a good place for to get our feet wet.
Sounds good.
Okay, excellent. Anybody have anything else? I think so. What I'll do is, it kind of sounds like the consensus would be to have the collapsible boxes, like we were talking about, reorder them, kind of group them together a little bit better, and then do the the navigation tabs to get you to the right place on the page. If I want to go see dependencies, it'll get me to that section of that area. So I think that, am I missing anything, or is that basically the plan? It kind of seemed like we're going to start with. Okay. And I'll put some, and then the other thing is I'm going to put out on our dev Discord channel all the service catalog information that I can think of. And I'd like everybody just to review it and add to it if I'm missing anything. Like Tracy says, one of the things that we're moving into the world where Ortelius is becoming a data hoarder, where we want to go and grab as much information we can around components and applications, environments, and those type of things. So the more things out there that we can pull in, the more of a dashboard in one place for people to go work from. It'll definitely help people out. Okay, perfect. Devendrana, I will touch base with you to figure out a time to get your dev environment set up.
Sure, Steve. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Okay, perfect. Well, thank you everybody for the insights today. We are definitely getting a plan in place here, and we'll be able to get I'm hoping by definitely by our next architecture meeting, but hopefully by our next just general meeting, I'll be able to show some of the layout changes that we got going on, so people get a feel for where we're headed. All right, with that, everybody have a good day. Thank you again, and we'll talk to you soon.